Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Nitya Gaura Haribo 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 Nitya Gaura Haribo Gaura Premanandi Hari Haribo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namene Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachardane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from the 10th canto, chapter 3, the birth of Lord Krishna. And today we're covering text 9 to 12. Our focus verse will be text 11. So yesterday we had the appearance of Lord Krishna. It was very beautiful how all the planets aligned, how all the birds were singing and the sun was shining and the trees were swaying and the bees were buzzing and everything was beautiful and glorious and perfectly arranged for Krishna's perfect appearance. And so we're going to hear now a description of what the Lord looked like when he was born and how Vasudeva was struck with wonder. That's going to be the main theme here, is Vasudev's wonder and all the wonderful things that he was wondering about, or wondering at. Okay, so someone please read text 9 to 10.
Vasudev then saw the newborn child, who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes, and who bore in his 4 hands the 4 weapons, Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, and on his neck was the brilliant Kaustuba gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish, like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem, Vaidurya. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful.
Evil. Okay, text 11.
When Vasudeva saw his extraordinary son, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them among the Brahmanas as a transcendental festival.
Okay, and the last one.
O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of King Bharata, Vasudeva could understand that this child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Having concluded this without a doubt, he became fearless. Bowing down with folded hands and concentrating his attention, he began to offer prayers to the child who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence.
Thank you. So Monday, our next Bhagavatam class, we're going to hear the prayers of Vasudeva. So let's go back to text 11. We'll recite the Sanskrit for this. Savismayot pula vilochano harim Sutam vilokyanaka dundubistada Krishnavatarotsava sambramo sprishan Muda dvijebhyo yutam apluto gavam Savismayot pula vilochano harim Sutam vilokyanaka dundubistada Krishnavatarotsava sambramo sprishan Muda dvijebhyo yutam apluto gavam. Please chant. Savismayot phula vilochano harim Sutam vilokyanaka dundubistada Krishnavatarotsava sambramo sprishan Muda dvijebhyo yutam apluto gavam Savismayot pulla vilochano harim Sutam vilokyanaka dundubistada Krishnavatarotsava sambramo sprishan Muda dvijebhyo yutam apluto gavam. Okay, let's do the word for word together. Sa he, Vasudev, also known as Anaka Dundubi, Vismaya Utvala Vilochana, his eyes being struck with wonder at the beautiful appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harim, Lord Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sutam, as his son. Vilokya, observing. Anaka Dundubi, Vasudev. Tada, at that time. Krishna Avatara Utsava, for a festival to be observed because of Krishna's appearance. Sambrama, wishing to welcome the Lord with great respect. Asprishat, took advantage by distributing. Muda, with great jubilation. Dvijebhya, to the Brahmanas. Ayutam, 10,000. Apluta, overwhelmed, surcharged. Gavam, cows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Vasudeva saw his extraordinary son, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them among the Brahmanas as a transcendental festival. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has analyzed the wonder of Vasudeva upon seeing his extraordinary child. Vasudeva was shivering with wonder to see a newborn child decorated so nicely with valuable garments and gems. He could immediately understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had appeared, not as an ordinary child, but in his original, fully decorated, four-handed form. The first wonder was that the Lord was not afraid to appear within the prison house of Kamsa, where Vasudeva and Devaki were interned. Second, although the Lord, the Supreme Transcendence, is all-pervading, he had appeared from the womb of Devaki. The third point of wonder, therefore, was that a child could take birth from the womb so nicely decorated. Fourth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was Vasudeva's worshipable deity, yet he had taken birth as his son. For all these reasons, Vasudeva was transcendentally jubilant, and he wanted to perform a festival, as Kshatriyas do to celebrate the birth of a child. But because of his imprisonment, he was unable to do it externally, and therefore he performed the festival within his mind. This was just as good. If one cannot externally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can serve the Lord within one's mind, since the activities of the mind are as good as those of the other senses. This is called the non-dual or absolute situation, Advaya Gyan. People generally perform ritualistic ceremonies for the birth of a child. Why then should Vasudeva not have performed such a ceremony when the Supreme Lord appeared as his son? Jai. Vasudeva and Devaki Ki Jai. So, some interesting things here in this verse. One thing is that Vasudeva is called by the name Anaka Dundubi. So I did some research into this name. So Anaka Dundubi are the names of two different kinds of drums, right? Anaka is a small drum, like kind of like a dolak, but small. And because it's small, it makes a more high-pitched sound, right? Like, if the drum is small, it's like tuck, 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 tuck. So it's like anak, 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 right? High-pitched sound. And dundubi is a kettle drum, so that's like doon, doon. So you got anak, 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 doon, doon, doon. So why is Vasudeva named after drums? Because he's the father of Lord Krishna, and when Krishna was born, the demigods were playing all these drums, right? These sacred drums, kettle drums, and small drums, and all sizes of drums to herald the entrance of Krishna to this world to perform his pastimes. And also, the acharyas comment that it's significant that there's two different kinds of drums, because the dundubi is the loud one that makes a deep, resonant sound that goes, for miles, right? You can hear that long, far away, right? Just like when there's a strong bass or something, in a concert or something, you hear that before you hear anything else. Right? It's like you feel it in your body. So that dundubi part, the dundubi drum, signifies that Krishna's birth is going to change the world in a very broad way, right? And that's why he came, is because the earth was overburdened with the weight of so many demons. And so Krishna came to relieve the burden of the earth, to reestablish the principles of religion for all human society all over the world, right? Which he did by speaking Bhagavad Gita and by setting the example of how to live a religious life. So that's the dundubi. And the anaka, the small drum, high-pitched one, so that one, the sound doesn't go so far, that signifies that Krishna's appearance is going to change the heart. Right? So on a personal level, right here in our hearts, there's going to be transformation. Now that Krishna has appeared in this world, he's given his instructions, He's performed his pastimes. He's attracting our minds. He's melting our hearts in a very personal, individual way. So I thought that was sweet, right? Anaka Dundubi. So this verse is talking about the wonder of Anaka Dundubi, of Vasudeva. And the Sanskrit here is Vismaya. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has a whole section on Vismaya Rasa. So Vismaya means the mood of wonder. And it's one of the components of the Adbhuta Ras. So Adbhuta is one of the 7 secondary rasas or relationships one can have with Krishna. And it means astonishment. So whenever the Lord performs some superhuman activity, then there's this sense of astonishment, right? And wonder. So first you're astonished, like, oh my God, that's crazy, right? Like and then the next question is, how is that happening, right? So that's the wonder. I wonder how this is even possible. I wonder how I could be so unfortunate. I wonder how is this small boy able to do this amazing superhuman feat, right? So from astonishment, the next thing is wonder. So that's what we're talking about, is wonder, vismaya. And then the symptoms of wonder is that the person tends to stop in their tracks, right? Whatever you're doing, you're just like, what? What is that? How is that possible? So stop in the tracks, and then the jaw drops, right? Like, the emoji when something's surprising with the mouth open. It's like, and then the eyes become wide. And that's mentioned here, that utfalo vilochano. So vilochana means eyes, and utfala means to open, right? Like the blossoming of a flower. It's like, what is going on? And then the other thing is trembling. We heard here in the purport, Prabhupada says, Vasudeva was shivering with wonder. So these are some of the symptoms of Vismaya Rasa, some of the external manifestations. So when Krishna does some superhuman feat, everybody's like, big eyes, open mouth, trembling of the body. And so Vasudeva is experiencing this. And Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives some other examples of wonderful things that stimulate this Vismaya Rasa. For example, when Narada Muni visits Dwarka, what does he see that's very wonderful? Yeah, Krishna has expanded himself into 16,108 forms to be present simultaneously in 16,108 palaces, and he's interacting with each one of his 16,108 queens in a unique way, right? In a different way according to the queen's mood, and it's all happening simultaneously. And Narada Muni sees that and he's like, right? And then when the Brajbasis see Krishna doing what? Lifting Govardhan hill. Yeah, so Rupa Goswami quotes a verse there where someone's talking to Mother Yashoda, probably one of her friends, or maybe Nanda Maharaj, and they're saying that this little boy, he's still smelling of milk from your breasts, and yet he's holding this mountain with his little finger. How is that possible, right? So they're just like, this little boy is doing this crazy, amazing thing. And then there's a scene on the battlefield where Krishna's fighting with the demon Narakasura. And Narakasura has these 11 akshohinis of army of soldiers. So that's like, millions of soldiers. And they're all firing arrows at Krishna simultaneously. So literally like Krishna, millions of arrows are coming towards him like rain, falling from the sky. And they're trying to kill him. And then Krishna, he just very nonchalantly picks up his bow. He fires 3 arrows, just 3, and those 3 arrows just cut to pieces all those millions of arrows in the sky before they can even reach him. And so all the soldiers in the battlefield are just like, how did he do that? I wonder how that was even possible. And then Lord Brahma also has a little incident in Vrindavan where he tries to steal all the calves and the boys, and then he comes back to check on what's happening in the situation. And then what does he see? Something very astonishing. Right, Jaishnav? Have what? They're still there. They're still there. Okay, and what else? Who knows? What else about those? What happens with those cowherd boys? Yeah, so Brahma sees them, but then he sees something after that that's even more astonishing. Yeah, all the cowherd boys and the calves turn into Lord Vishnu with 4 arms, and not only that, but they're each one of those Vishnus, and there are many of them, right? Because Krishna has 900,000 so the cows, and they all have calves, and so each one of those is surrounded by a whole host of demigods who are performing arti, chanting, Purusha Shukta, and doing a whole thing, paying obeisances, doing kirtan, chanting and dancing, each one of them. And so Brahma is like, oh, what? How is this possible? Right, so these are some examples of Vismaya Rasa in Krishna's pastimes. And there are many more, but this is just to give you an idea. So Vasudeva is seeing the same thing. He's like, all right, my wife was pregnant. We had a feeling something very wonderful was going on because things didn't happen in the normal way, and yet somehow she has delivered this child. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out 4 ways in which Vasudeva is wonderstruck. So the first thing is that, I'll just take them in order as they are in the purport. The first thing is that Krishna appeared within a prison. So that's very wonderful because Krishna is the supreme controller. He can do anything he wants. He can appear anywhere he wants. He could have appeared, in a gorgeous palace. He could have appeared in a beautiful natural setting, just whatever his taste was. He could have arranged his perfect appearance venue, and yet he took birth in a prison. So that's very wonderful, right? That makes one wonder, like, why did he arrange for that? So the acharyas say that one reason for it is to show that Krishna is never bound. He's never bound by any material circumstances. He's never conditioned. He's never limited by the material situation. Because a prison is like the most limiting situation you could be in practically, right? You're locked up. I mean, Vasudeva and Devaki, they weren't just, in a locked room, but they were like chained. They were like chained to the floor, So Krishna appears in the most bound place, and yet he's completely free. So that tells us something about Krishna. And Kamsa was the king. So Kamsa had all of this control. He had political control. He had armies. He had guards everywhere guarding Vasudeva and Devaki, waiting for Krishna. The gates were locked. They had iron chains. And yet as soon as Krishna appears, the guards fall asleep, the gates unlock, the chains open, the Yamuna parts. So it just shows that nothing can stop Krishna. Krishna is unstoppable, his will is unstoppable, and his movement is unstoppable. So no matter how much opposition there may be, no matter how many restrictions may be imposed on Krishna consciousness, either on us individually in our practice of Krishna consciousness or Srila Prabhupada's movement, collectively, globally, any antagonism or any, government restrictions on spreading it, nothing can stop it. Because this movement is non-different from Krishna. And no matter how bound it seems, no matter how limiting the material situation seems to be, it's going to go on because Krishna is completely free and independent of all of these things. So that's something that's wonderful about Krishna being born in the prison. And then the second thing that's wonderful is that he appeared from the womb of Devaki. So the way Prabhupada mentions here is that second, although the Lord, the supreme transcendence, is all-pervading, he appeared from the womb of Devaki. So Krishna is everywhere. He's all-pervading. He's in every atom. And yet he came into a very finite place, right? The womb of his mother Devaki. And then he appeared as, a baby. He appeared as a small child. So he's all-pervasive, and yet he appears. He comes into, a very limited space, and he, assumes a, finite, apparently finite form. And even though he's the shelter of everyone, but still he takes shelter of Devaki's womb. And even though everyone's depending on him, he appears to be dependent. on his parents. So these things are very wonderful. And another thing that's wonderful about him appearing from Devaki's womb is that how did he even get into Devaki's womb? And Vasudeva is wondering because he's the father. And he's like, all right, I know it didn't happen the usual way because I would have known. So yeah, it wasn't by any biological process, and nor was it a biological necessity, because Krishna is transcendental, right? But just because Krishna wanted to please Vasudeva and Devaki, then he, by his own sweet will, appeared in the womb of Devaki and accepted her as his mother. So this is another thing that's very wonderful about Krishna, is his quality of Bhaktavatsala, that he wants to please his devotees. He's always very favorably disposed towards his devotees, and he wants to make his devotees happy and fulfill their desires to serve him, their desires to associate with him. So then the third thing is that Krishna was born fully dressed, fully decorated with, his hair fully grown, helmet, ornaments, everything. He even had, in each of his 4 hands, he had 4 weapons. So he was totally, not an ordinary baby. Because, usually a baby is born naked, helpless, they can't walk, they can't stand, they can't talk, they can't do anything. They're just like, sometimes they're not even conscious. But Krishna was fully dressed, fully conscious. He was standing. He was, very soon after his birth, he started instructing his parents, telling them, all right, now that I've appeared, you need to do this, that. This is the plan. This is the game plan, right? And empowering them with the confidence and the ability to do those things. So Krishna's making a statement. You just see, he appears fully dressed. So sometimes by our dress, we make a statement, right? Like a fashion statement. So like Srila Prabhupada in his youth, he made a statement by his dress. Right? He was wearing the khadi cloth that was just homespun, loom woven cloth. He rejected the British, factory manufactured clothes, and he wore this simple khadi cloth. So his statement was that I am a follower of Mahatma Gandhi. I am in favor of Indian independence from the British rule. So like that, in different ways we can make a statement by the way we dress, by our appearance. So Krishna is making a fashion statement here. He's making a statement. He's making a theological statement that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's his statement. I am not an ordinary child. I have appeared from this mother and father, but I am not ordinary. Just see, which baby appears fully dressed and ornamented, right? Like that. So then he's also making another statement to reassure his parents. And that statement is that everything is going to be all right? Because they had this demonic king who was terrorizing, people, who was stopping all the sacrifices. He was, persecuting Brahmins and devotees. He ousted the king and threw him in jail. And now he was also tormenting Vasudeva and Devaki. He killed the 6 previous children that were born to them. And they're worried that he's going to kill this child as soon as he's born too. So Krishna's appearing, even though he's Krishna, but the first thing he does is he manifests his form of Lord Vishnu to assure them that, don't worry, I'm God, no one's going to kill me, Kamsa is not going to kill me. In fact, just as the prophecy said, I'm going to kill him. You're going to be released from here very shortly, and everything's going to be okay. So that was another statement that he made by appearing that way. And then the fourth thing that's very wonderful, that's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions, is that Vasudeva's worshipable deity had become his son. So just imagine, you grow up here in Dallas in a devotee community, you're born in a devotee family, you spend your whole life worshipping Radha Kalachandji, and then you grow up and you get married and you have a child, and then your child is born, and then as soon as the child is born, he manifests the form of Kalachandji. He stands there and he's, holding his flute. He looks exactly like Kalachandji, and then he's talking to you saying, congratulations, you've got me as your son. How wonderful that would be, right? So that's what happened to Vasudeva and Devaki. They had this desire to have Krishna as their son. Actually, over 3 different lifetimes, they were intensely performing austerities and praying with great eagerness to have the Lord as their son. And he actually appeared repeatedly as their son. So first, Devaki was Prishni, and Vasudeva was Sutapa. And they got an incarnation of the Lord called Prishni Garbha. And then they raised him. And then in their next birth, Devaki was Aditi, yeah. And Vasudeva was Kashyapa, and they got Vamanadeva as their son. It was the dwarf who made 3 steps and covered the universe and poked his hole through the universal shell, and the Ganges water came through and all that. And then now they took birth as Devaki and Vasudeva, and they got Krishna as their son. So it's wonderful that Krishna fulfills the desires of his devotees, and he does it across lifetimes, right? Krishna doesn't forget that, oh, in the past life you did austerities because you had this desire, and now I'm fulfilling your desire. So if we look at our lives now and all the things that's happening, we can just kind of wonder about what desire did I have in my past lifetime, and how is Krishna fulfilling that in this lifetime, right? Maybe Jaishnav, you had a desire to take birth in a devotee family. You had a desire to learn classical dance and Sanskrit from a young age. Right? Nayanavita, you had a desire to attend the Srimad Bhagavatam class every morning and learn Bhagavad Gita shlokas, right? And Krishna's fulfilling your desire in this lifetime. So you never know, right? Yeah. And it's, yeah, indeed, it's wonderful that Krishna accepts parents at all, because why does God need parents? He doesn't need parents. He's eternally existing. He doesn't need to take birth. He doesn't need anyone to take care of him. And yet, he accepts parents. So, just imagine Vasudeva's thinking, oh my God, here is the Lord. He's carrying the weight of the world, you know, in a portion of his plenary portion of Anantashesh. He's holding the whole universe on his head, and compared to him, the universe is so small that it's like a mustard seed. He doesn't even notice it on his head. Right? All the 14 planetary systems are just, you know, resting on him, and that's not even Krishna. That's just an expansion of an expansion of an expansion of an expansion of a, you know, just a tiny partial expansion of Krishna. So he's carrying all these 14 planetary systems, the whole cosmic manifestation, and yet he's asking his father to carry him to Gokul. It's wonderful, right? So all these, Vasudeva is just considering all of these wonderful things about Krishna's appearance. And yeah, and he's really just floored, you know. He's like, wow, this is just super wow. And he's beside himself with joy. So in that very joyful state, he wants to have a festival. Right? He wants to have a huge festival and celebrate and feed everyone and shower everyone with gifts and have music and dancing and, yeah, just a huge celebration that this wonderful child has taken birth. But he's in jail, so he can't do it. And so what he does instead is that he sits down and he just closes his eyes and he gets into a meditative state. And in his mind, he's just imagining, you know, that he's having this big festival, so many people are coming, he's feeding everyone, he's giving everyone gifts, he's giving thousands of cows in charity to the brahmanas. The brahmanas are very happy, they're very satisfied, and they're reciprocating by giving their blessings to the child, and the baby is there smiling, receiving all the blessings very graciously, and Devaki is just totally overwhelmed with joy at the event. And so he's celebrating in his mind, and Prabhupada says that was just as good. The service that's done in the mind is called manasa seva. And because devotional service is absolute, then even if we can't physically perform a service, but if we just meditate on doing it, then we get the full benefit for actually doing that service. And there's one story that Prabhupada tells in the next year of devotion about the South Indian Brahmin. So there was one Brahmin, and he was very poor. He didn't have, you know, anything at all with which to worship the Lord. but he wanted to. He wanted to worship the Lord. So one day he was listening to a class when Sadhu was speaking, and he was saying just this. He was saying, yeah, if you don't have the resources and paraphernalia for worshiping the Lord with all the pomp and splendor and all that, then you can just meditate on it and you get the same benefit. So this Brahmin was like, wow, this is what I'm going to do. This is just what I need to do. So he started doing that. He would get into meditation, and then he would, in his mind, he would be gathering all the best ingredients, the best fruits and vegetables, the most beautiful, opulent flowers, gold and silver paraphernalia, and exotic perfumes, and, so many nice things to offer to the Lord. And he was doing that every day, and he was so satisfied. And then one day he decided to make some sweet rice to offer to the Lord. So he gets the best milk from the best cows and really nice aromatic rice and, all the best ingredients. And in his meditation, he's making the fire, and he's lighting his fire. He's using the best fuel. He's using pure cow dung patties from Dasi cows, and, everything's just perfect. He puts the pot there, and he's boiling it. He's stirring it. He's making sure it's not too high temperature because it can't burn, And then he adds the cardamom, and he adds a little pinch of camphor, and the cashews, and the saffron. He makes it like really nice, very opulent, very wonderful. And then, he's okay, it's all cooked, it's rich and creamy. And then he takes it off the fire, and he's like, okay, I think it's ready to offer. But let me just check if it's not too hot, because I don't want Krishna to burn his mouth, so it should cool a little bit, So then to test the temperature, he takes the little finger and he dips it into the pot, and he burns his finger. It's still too hot. He takes his finger out quickly, and then at that point, his meditation breaks, because he just burnt his finger. And then he looks at his finger, and his finger, this is like outside of his meditation. Now he's just like in his, normal sitting there. And his finger is actually red and blistered from being, from touching that boiling hot milk. And he's like, whoa. That sadhu who really knew what he was talking about, like, this is actually real. It's actually happening. And he understood that the Lord was really accepting his service. Meanwhile, the Lord in Vaikuntha starts laughing. So the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, is massaging the feet of the Lord, and he's sitting there very peacefully, very serenely. And then all of a sudden he just bursts out laughing. So Lakshmi's like, hey, what's so funny? What happened? And then he didn't say anything. He just kind of smiled. And then he, by his will, he sent, a Vaikuntha airplane down to that village in South India where the Brahmin was sitting there with his burnt finger, and he invited him. He brought him back to the spiritual world, and then Lakshmi understood everything. So, yeah. But still, when Vasudeva finally does get free from prison, then he actually does he does have a festival, and he invites the Brahmins, and he gives the cows. So he still wanted to make sure that everybody got the things, because one time Vijay Prabhu was giving a talk about book distribution, and he was saying that sometimes devotees who were distributing books for many years, they feel a little bit bad later in life when maybe their physical health doesn't allow them to go out and distribute books. So he said, you can still go out and distribute books in your mind. You can sit there, even if you're bedridden, you can lie there and you can imagine you're going out with your book bag and you're approaching people, you're saying your mantras. He said the only problem with that is that the people don't actually get the books. It's great for you. You get the benefit of distributing them, but the people don't get the benefit of reading them. So Vasudeva was thinking, okay, I got the benefit of distributing them, but the Brahmins didn't actually get the cows. The people didn't actually get the feast, So he wanted to actually do it in real life and real time and space. So he did. So, yeah, all these things are very wonderful. And the more we practice Krishna consciousness, the more we will experience wonder in our lives. Actually, when I was reading this, I was thinking about this point of how it's amazing that Krishna appeared from the womb of Devaki. Then it reminded me of one purport here from Canto 3. This is chapter 33 about Kapila Dev. And because Kapila Dev appeared, he was also an incarnation of the Lord who appeared from Devahuti. And so in the purport to 333.21, Prabhupada says something very amazing. He says, every woman can qualify herself as much as Devahuti, and then can also have the Supreme Godhead as her son. Pretty amazing, right? Saying any woman can just become as qualified as Devahuti and have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son. He says if the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear as the son of Devahuti, he can also appear as the son of any other woman, provided that woman is qualified. If one gets the Supreme Lord as a son, one can have the benefit of bringing up a nice son in this world and at the same time get promotion to the spiritual world to become the face-to-face associate of the Personality of Godhead. So I remember when I was doing the Bhakti Vaibhava in Mayapur, my older daughter was also in the course with me. We were doing it together, and she had just finished high school. So she was like 17 or 18, and we were in the class together. We read this, and I was like, oh, Subhaji, you should try for this. Make yourself qualified as Devahuti and have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your son. And she was like, oh my God, Mom. She rolled her eyes at me. But I mean, Prabhupada is saying it's not impossible. You know, if a girl practices Krishna consciousness very sincerely and becomes as qualified as Devahuti, become a pure devotee, Krishna can appear. I mean, you might not get Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, but you could get a Shakti Avesh avatar, right? At least. Why not? Prabhupada is saying it's possible. So any woman can become that qualified to have Krishna as her son. But I was thinking it's interesting that some people think that a woman can never become as qualified enough to have a disciple. Haribol. Okay, so with that, I'll open it up for questions and comments about Krishna's wonderful appearance in this world. Yes, Priya Mridanga.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I was wondering if you could contrast some of the other appearances of the Lord. I'm thinking of one instance, there's a Muni who doesn't exactly know who he's desiring, and then, that's not an appearance as the sun, but they just appear, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu.
Yeah.
And then there's another instance where someone wants someone as good as the Lord as their son. So
Yeah.
could you compare some of these?
Yeah, and then Krishna appears because he says, well, there's no one as good as me, so you're going to have me. Yeah, so Krishna appears in different ways, and he always appears to, the common denominator is that he appears to satisfy his devotees. So that one person, who was it? I can't remember. Atri Muni? Yeah, okay, so Atri Muni, he wanted to have the Lord as his son, but his thing was he wasn't sure who the Lord was. So he was thinking, I'm not sure whether Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu or who Lord Brahma is the Lord. They're both great personalities, so yeah, I'll just meditate on all three of them. And so he got, who did he get? He got Dattatreya, who is a partial expansion of Lord Vishnu. He got Durvasa, who is an expansion of Lord Shiva. And he got, who else? Huh? Chandradev? Okay. Yeah, so he got 3 different children, and I remember he was hopping around on one leg doing his austerities, right? And the children started coming, and then he's like hopping, like he's so excited, but he can't like put his other foot on the ground because he took a vow to do these austerities. And he's like, oh my God, this is so amazing, but I got 3. Like, yeah, you were meditating on all 3 of us. Yeah, so Krishna is Bhaktavatsala, right? He always wants to fulfill. I mean, the Sri Upanishad said he's the self-sufficient philosopher who's been fulfilling the desires of everyone since time immemorial. So what to speak of everyone, of course he's going to fulfill the desires of his devotees, especially. So, but then Prabhupada says, first deserve, then desire. So we can desire to have the Lord as our son, or we can desire to have, a relationship with the Lord that's very intimate and exalted, but also we need to deserve. So, Prabhupada stresses that point, that we need to become qualified. And so Vasudeva and Devaki were very qualified. Of course, they're the Lord's eternal parents, so there's no question of them ever being unqualified. But also, even in this world, they did so many austerities, right, as Prishni and Sutapa and all that. And so later we're going to see, as the 10th canto unfolds, how the Lord is going to actually speak to them and say, yeah, this is in your past life I appeared as Vamanadev, in the life before that I appeared as Prishnigarva, and whenever you appear, I appear as your son, because this is our relationship, and this is what it is. But an interesting thing about Vasudeva and Devaki's relationship with Krishna is how it's different from Nandaraj and Mother Yashoda's relationship with Krishna, is that they're always kind of aware that Krishna is the Lord. So, and this becomes a little bit of an impediment sometimes to their Vatsalya Bhav, to their parental affection, because there's always like an oscillating mood between I need to take care of you because you're my son, and you need to take care of us because you're God. So sometimes they're like, oh, dear Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, we offer our obeisances unto you. And other times they're like, oh, Kamsa's going to kill you. We need to protect you. Come, don't cry. Don't make any noise because you're in danger. Like that. So it's an interesting dynamic, their mood of affection towards Krishna. And later, after Krishna kills Kamsa, the same thing. They just saw him killing Kamsa, and exhibiting this super, if not superhuman, at least super amazing for like a 10-year-old or something, however old he was when he killed them. So then, when he released them from prison, as soon as he killed Kamsa, the first thing he did was he released Vasudeva and Devaki from prison, and then they're offering, they're standing before him with folded hands, like, we're so grateful to you. You are the all-powerful. You are, omniscient, and all these things. And then Krishna immediately, I can't remember what he says, but he says something. He says something, or he does something that's very little boyish, that's just very charming and babyish, just to get them to forget about his, his transcendental position as the Lord, and to embrace him. Because he's like, oh my God, I've been separated from them for so long. At my birth, he carried me to Vrindavan, and I've been there. They've been separating me for like 10 long years, and now here I am, and they're not even going to hug me. He's like feeling like that. He's like, they're not even going to like hug me and hold me on their laps and smell my head and, bathe me with their tears of parental affection. It's like, no, they can't. They have to hug me. So yeah, he does that, and then they do. They like it and pick him up and embrace him. So, whereas Mother Yashoda and Nandaraj, they don't have that issue. Right? They never see Krishna as God. Even when Krishna's literally showing himself to be God, right? When Mother Yashoda looks in Krishna's mouth and she sees the universal form, and she even sees herself there in Krishna's mouth, looking in Krishna's mouth, and she's just like, I need to call a doctor. There's something very wrong with this child's throat. Yeah. So that's Mother Yashoda's mood. And yes, Prayushi.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question. When Lord Krishna was born, he was born in jail, but while going to the other place, like Vrindavan, yeah, the prison was opened, all the locks and everything. But why did he not free his parents at that same time?
Yeah, because he wanted to perform his Vraj Leela, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken him to Vraj. If he had just immediately freed them and gone and killed Kamsa, or just sat there and waited for Kamsa to try to come kill him and then just like killed him immediately, then he wouldn't go to Vrindavan, right? So he wanted to perform his Vraj Leela. I'm sure there are other reasons, but that's one reason. Yes, Jagaranga Prabhu.
I was curious, you said that Devaki and Vasudeva are Krishna's eternal parents.
Yeah.
They're also known as expansions of Nanda and Yashoda, is it?
Yeah.
And where are they? And is there a spiritual?
Well, it's just, yeah. I mean,
a Vaikuntha planet
yeah.
where they are, or?
Yeah, so in Goloka there's different areas, right? There's Goloka Vrindavan, there's Goloka Mathura, there's Goloka Dwarka, like that. So all of Krishna's pastimes are eternal. It's not that only his Goloka pastimes are eternal, and everything else is just kind of like some temporary show. They're all eternal, so they're all eternally going on in the spiritual world. So yeah, there's these different places. So there's a Dwarka on the high. So all of Krishna's pastimes happen in Goloka. All the Vaikunthas are where the Krishna's expansion, Vishnu expansions, or Nrsingadev, like that, have their planets and their pastimes and their worshippers and things. But Krishna, as Krishna, in his two-armed form, who, has peacock feather and a flute and all that. So all of those pastimes happen in Goloka. And then his Dwarka Leela with his 16,108 queens, those are also eternal pastimes that happen in one part of Goloka. And then his pastimes in Mathura with Vasudeva and Devaki. Or also Vasudeva and Devaki later, they get shifted over to Dwarka when there's that, dual attack of Kalyavana and Jarasandha. So, yeah, all those places are there, and their relationships are eternal.
So they're in the expansion part that they're Nanda and Yashoda. I'm just curious, like, I don't want to be like nerdy about the whole thing, but like when they expand, like when Krishna's expansion, or when Krishna appears in every universe, it's the same Devaki and Vasudeva and that are expansions of Nanda and Yashoda.
Must be. Yeah. And Krishna, we were hearing yesterday how Krishna's pastimes are, like each one of Krishna's pastimes, every second of Krishna's pastimes is happening somewhere in some universe, right? And it's also simultaneously happening in the spiritual world. So, so in that case, you would need, millions of Vasudeva and Devakis, right, to be present in different places at different times. So, Krishna expands himself, devotees, and Nandas and Yashodas. Yeah, so they're all simultaneously existing. And whenever the Lord expands or his devotees expand, those it's not that they expand for some time and then after they just kind of like merge back into the original. That doesn't happen. They expand and they remain. They're eternal. It's hard for us to understand because never was there a time when Vasudeva and Devaki did not exist, So it's not like they didn't exist and at one point they expanded, they just kind of emanated out of Nanda and Yashoda. But they've always existed and they're simultaneously expansions of the original, like that. So it's kind of inconceivable to us.
We're wonder.
Exactly. we can just be like, how is that possible? Vismaya rasa.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
As we know, Krishna born in India, like what is Dwaraka, right? So he feels universal form. Why he's not celebrated by all over earth? Like most of the people in India will worship Krishna, but most of the other places they don't know Krishna.
Yeah.
So he feels the universal form. He should be known by everyone. So why he's very constrained to Indian people, and he's expanded after then by the Guruji. But why if he's universal form, he should be known by everyone? Why is not in other countries? So I was little confused on that part. If you can clarify me, it is a great help. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada talks about this. He says that, if Krishna wanted, he could have, manifest himself all over the world to all people. If, when he came in again, 500 years ago in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could have also, he traveled around South India and converted so many people into Vaishnavas, worshippers of Radha Krishna. He could have traveled all over the world and done that. So the question is, why didn't he do that? Right? And Srila Prabhupada said that he left the credit for us. He left that job for us. So, yeah. So that Krishna likes to glorify his servants. So Krishna does wonderful activities in this world, and he also empowers his pure devotees to perform similarly wonderful activities. So devotees like Srila Prabhupada, who, in his old age, at the age of 70, he got on a cargo ship and he crossed, from Calcutta to New York. And then he came to a country where he knew no one, he had no money, English was his second language, and he started a worldwide movement out of nothing, by Krishna's empowerment. So that's very wonderful, right? So Prabhupada said that Krishna likes his devotee to get the credit. Just like the Battle of Kurukshetra, right? There are all these demons, demoniac soldiers that appeared, Duryodhana and all of his brothers and all of their allies, and they're all, demonic. Krishna could have killed them all just by looking at them, just by his glance, just by his desire. They could have all dropped dead on the spot, right? Or just like Krishna released 3 arrows, and he could have just released 1 or 2 arrows and just like annihilated all of them. But he didn't. He didn't even fight. What did he do? He just took a lowly position as driver of a chariot because he wanted Arjuna to get the credit, right? He wanted Arjuna to be the hero of the Battle of Kurukshetra. And Krishna is he loves his devotees so much that he wants his devotees to have a higher position than he has. He wants his devotees to be more famous than he is, like that. So, yeah. So in India, more people worship Lord Vishnu as the Lord, right, than Krishna. In fact, it's considered by many that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu rather than Vishnu being an incarnation of Krishna, which is the actual fact. So, because people have a conception of God that God is great, God is powerful, God is wonderful, He's the creator, He's the maintainer, and Lord Vishnu has that mood, right, about him. Whereas Krishna, even though he's the source of Lord Vishnu, which we're seeing here, that Krishna, at different times throughout his pastimes, he can manifest his Vishnu form, right? He manifests to Arjuna in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He manifests to the gopis in Vrindavan when they're looking for him. He manifests to Vasudeva and Devaki right here when he's born. And then he goes back to his form of Krishna. So he's showing that Krishna can manifest a Vishnu form, but we never in any Shastras see that Vishnu can manifest a Krishna form. Because you can only manifest a form that is, you could say, less than you or included within you, right? Whereas Krishna is a superior form which is not included within Lord Vishnu, right? Krishna has transcendental qualities that are above and beyond the qualities of Lord Vishnu. So Vishnu cannot manifest Krishna, but Krishna very easily manifests Vishnu. So, but people don't see Krishna as God, as a worshipable personality, because Krishna's pastimes are so playful and so simple, Krishna just plays, climbs trees and pulls the tails of monkeys. He wrestles with his friends and he dances with gopis and, he steals butter and, his mother ties him up. It's like he does many things that don't seem very godlike, right? He does some things that don't even seem very religious, very ethical, right? But he's the supreme. He can do whatever he wants. He is like morality personified, So we have to really understand who Krishna really is. And we can understand that by studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's also a problem, is that people don't study the scriptures, right? They kind of go on sentiment. So it's like, okay, I think Vishnu's a better God. He kind of resonates with me more as God than Krishna, so I'll just worship him, right? Or many people, they're not quite sure who's God, so they'll just worship everyone, Vishnu, Krishna, Lord Shiva, Ganesh, Hanuman, right? They'll just worship everyone because they don't want to miss anyone, just in case they don't want to get any thunderbolts on their head. So, a lot of it is just due to lack of knowledge. And then some of it is due to personal taste. Right? Because the mood of worshipping Vishnu is awe and reverence. That's the mood that Vishnu is pleased by. In Vaikuntha, even in the spiritual world, all of his followers worship him with awe and reverence. So if someone wants to have that reverential relationship with the Lord, then Lord Vishnu is the form of the Lord which is suitable for that mode of worship. Whereas Krishna, he's not really into awe and reverence. Krishna is all about love. Krishna wants love, intimacy, loving exchanges, heart-to-heart connection, like that. So depending on your personal mood in worshiping the Lord or loving the Lord, then there'll be a particular form of the Lord which is most amenable towards that. Okay? Yes, Karan.
Hare Krishna. So I had a question. When Prabhupada came to the West,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sharing all this information, these stories, how would he explain to let's say a Christian person? Because we're saying that this unorthodox type of birth is unique to Krishna, right? But then the Christians also believe in a virgin birth of Jesus.
It's not
So-
unique to Krishna. I mean, like Lord Varahadev came out of Brahma's nose. You know, that's pretty unorthodox. Like, pretty much like all of the incarnations, they appeared in pretty wonderful ways, right? Yeah, and even the birth of Christ, who's a Shaktivesh avatar, he appeared from a virgin mother, right? So that's pretty wonderful. It's very similar to, you know, Krishna's appearance from Vasudeva and Devaki, that there was no sexual intercourse for conception. She just appeared in the mind of Vasudeva, and from the mind was mystically transferred to the heart of Devaki, and then he just appeared. He didn't come out, you know, like a baby is usually delivered, but there he was, you know. One day she was appearing to be pregnant, you know, she was like this. And another day there he was. He just came out in his transcendental way. So, yeah, all of the Lord's activities are wonderful. All the activities of all of his incarnations are wonderful. The activities of his even empowered jivas are wonderful. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the more we become Krishna conscious, the more our lives also become very wonderful. Right? We'll experience how Krishna actually empowers us too in different ways, and enables us to do wonderful things that we never thought we could do, that we never thought possible, given our, you know, our restrictions and things. But Krishna can empower us to go beyond our own limitations. And he can also show up in our lives, be present in our lives in wonderful ways. He can appear, just like he appeared in wonderful ways in the prison to Vasudeva and Devaki. He can also appear in wonderful ways in our lives, right? Through the holy name, in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the deity, in our service, right? Different ways that Krishna appears, and we can feel his presence and be awed, you know, that we one day will just be like, Krishna, you're amazing, right? So devotees aspire for those moments, right? Those Krishna wow moments that they come again and again in the life of any sincere devotee, because Krishna is wonderful. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.